And I wish I were a salmon fish. Salmon fish. Oh, I wish I were a salmon fish. Salmon fish. I would only have one wish. I don't end up in a dish if I were a salmon fish. Salmon fish.
So if you guys want to come closer, we'll start on the second dish of the evening, which is going to be linguine and clam sauce.
Clams, need 'em for chowder. Oh, clams, you eat 'em with fries. Oh, clams, I'll be a digger until the
So,
Oh, geez, this is
I'm a big fan of recipes that are not
precious.
precious. Yeah, that like if you blow it somehow, it's still going to turn out okay. Or you don't have to be very precise. It's sort of like the look or the taste, and so linguine with clam sauce is one of those things. Now, my husband, who's helping with the camera here, he's not a huge fan of clams. And so one of the things that you can do with linguine and clam sauce is you can do it sort of as a deconstructed dish. So you can put out the pasta tossed with some olive oil, a bowl of the clam broth, a bowl of the clams, a bowl of cherry tomatoes with olive oil in them, and garlic. And then, somebody who's not a big clam fan can choose a little bit of clam, or no clam broth, but a little clam, and so you can play around with this. But we're going to make a clam sauce, and the way I start, so I'm also heating up my water here. Hopefully that'll come to a boil in a bit. So the way I started is just with some olive oil. And actually, the olive oil is contributing to the sauce. You're just not using it as a fat to heat up something else in it. So I actually am a little generous with the olive oil.
That olive oil straight up.
That's
not extra virgin or anything.
That is extra virgin.
Oh, okay. Thought it looked a little dark.
Yeah. And then the next thing is garlic, and I just chopped a bunch of garlic.
There we go.
Excellent. Oh boy, you can smell it. And I'm just gonna throw. This is probably 3 tablespoons or so of garlic. And I don't know if you can smell that, but boy, I sure can.
That's my favorite smell cooking. Mm-hmm. Garlic and onions, yum.
Yeah. And so I'm just cooking it a little bit. I don't want it to get overcooked. I want it to, because when it burns, it's not good. Wine is the next thing. And so I'm just going to add. Remember, this is the sauce for the whole. I'm making 1.5 pounds of pasta, so I need a good amount of liquid.
What kind of white?
This is a Pinot Grigio.
Sweet. Does it matter?
Dry.
Okay.
It's a dry. It's Pinot Grigio is on the dry side. Okay. And so I just added that, and I'm gonna cook it for a little bit, so till it sort of comes to a simmer. I turned the heat down with the garlic so it didn't burn, and now I'm turning it up because I've got liquid in the pot. Okay. So we'll let that.
I love the component cooking idea. It's such a good way to eat with people when everybody has just different tastes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think too, in terms of thinking about like a recipe being, it's okay if you kind of mess it up. I feel like fish in general is like that, because even if you overcook fish, it's mostly still delicious. And my go-to, if I like overcook a fillet or something like that, is just to make fish tacos, because then if you add salsa and sour cream, you're not going to know it anyway. So it's not as fragile as people think it can be. Fish is very forgiving, a lot more so I think than something like chicken, that if you overcook it, it gets chewy.
Yeah.
So or beef or anything too. Yeah, fish is a lot more forgiving.
So I use a combination of clams in the shell, mostly for garnishing, to make it so you know what you're eating. And then I also get these already shucked clams. I'm just going to strain out the liquor first. I don't want to cook the clams too much because I don't want them to get tough. And they're all, so I'm going to just do this. It's taking forever to.
It's a very pretty pot.
Oh, thanks.
I can talk a little bit
A
about
watch pot.
clams.
Yeah, that would
if
be.
that
yeah.
works. We have a pretty good clamming industry in Harpswell. It's the only fishery that's managed municipally. So to get your clam license, you have to reside in the town in which you are harvesting. That being said, because of our changing community, cost of living, development on the waterfront, Harpswell passed an ordinance. I think actually it was just this past year that you can live out of the town and still get your clam license. There are some stipulations. You have to prove that you lived in Harpswell in the past and things like that, but that definitely helps a lot of the clam harvesters. It does not help though when clam harvesters can't vote in the community. So when they have to move out of town, even though they can still fish here, unfortunately they can't vote here. So it's important to keep them in mind when we're talking about the working waterfront and intertidal in the town. We have a few different clam species. And this is not my area of expertise, but there are soft shell clams, quahogs. There are razor clams, which are like the longer ones. Issues in the clam industry are things like invasive species. So milky ribbon worms, which I don't think are actually invasive. I think they're native, but they're here in abundance right now. And then green crabs, which I'm sure you all have heard of. And then, of course, things like warming water temperatures and ocean acidification. There's a video on the Maine Coast Fishermen's Association YouTube page with a clam harvester from in town, David Wilson, and he talks a little bit about that kind of stuff, as well as how it's backbreaking work. Clam harvesters obviously fish with the tide, so they usually fish once a day, or depending on the tides, they can get out and harvest twice a day. So anybody have any questions about clams in any way?
What are the winter rules?
I don't know what the winter rules are. I mean, really and truly, you can clam harvest year round. So I don't think that there's any stipulations around seasonal, other than if the ground's frozen, it's probably going to be hard to dig clams. Or red tide or things like that. So, yeah.
I added a little clam juice that you can buy, just because I wanted to have a little more liquid for the amount of pasta that I'm making. So, and now I'm going to add these, and I'm going to just bring it to a boil, put the cover on it, and let these steam open.
Yeah, one of the things that we were talking about too is, sort of how to clean clams. Mm-hmm. For the most part, I think a lot of the Harpswell harvesters do a really good job taking care of their product. The way that I've always eaten, steamers are my favorite. I just, and those are the soft shell clams. You steam them similar to how I talked about lobsters. You just a little bit of water. When the steam comes out, you throw the clams in, and once again, like when I start to think they're done, but they also open up. It's the big tell if they're done. And then we use the water that we steamed them in, the liquor, to sort of clean them up and stuff too. Strain it if there's any dirt, and so you have like a little cup of water on the table, and then the butter. So you take the clam, peel the skin off, put them in the water, put them in the butter, and pop it in your mouth, and that's pretty delicious for sure. Or fried clams, which are delicious.
Right.
Could you use clams, like this kind of clam meat, in the arancini too?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I would again cook it a
Cook
little
it
bit.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How is the population of clams?
Great. They're, great. They're a cyclical species, like a lot of things. So I think right now, if you talk to a lot of clam harvesters, or at least when I was a year or two ago, quahogs were in abundance more so than soft shell clams. And that, like with everything, water temperatures, ocean acidification, harvesting populations, things like that cycle through. But I think it's pretty good. The clam harvesters in Harpswell do a great job with their conservation efforts. So a lot of seeding and taking care of the properties in which they fish. So we have a pretty good fishery in this town, for sure.
So we're using little necks, or they have different there's cherry stone, little neck, and then the quahogs, which are the big ones. I tend to use those for stuffed clams or something, I use a smaller clam for clam sauce.
And the difference between a little neck and a cherry stone, is there much? Is it just slightly bigger cherry stone?
Do you
The little necks have a neck and a belly, and then the quahogs and cherry stones, it's just sort of the round part. Yep. I prefer the necks. I like my whole clam. Like when I get fried clams, I get belly and everything. It's the way, yeah.
How long do you keep fresh clams, like in the refrigerator before you cook them?
You know, I'm not sure. I would imagine 24 hours. Keeping them very cold, though, I would imagine. I don't know if I would keep them much longer than that. And then I would also look at whether or not they're open or closed before I cook them. So you want them to be closed. If they're open, just toss them.
Is that the same for lobster, you would say, in its shell, being kept in the fridge? Would you keep it in the fridge and then
I would definitely keep it in the fridge. So if I...
in its shell? If you've cooked it?
I would keep it alive as long as I could. So the crisper drawer where you keep vegetables is a great place to keep lobsters. Again, probably not a lot longer than 24 hours. If it does happen to die in your fridge, you can split the tail from the carapace and just sort of smell it. If it smells ammoniated, don't eat it. If it still smells fresh and you know where your lobster came from, you know, then you're probably okay. Keeping seafood as cold as possible. Granted, if you're getting something like lobsters and or clams from harvesters in town, that's one thing. They'll ask you if you want ice on your fish. Yes is the correct answer. And then when you get home, if you put the fish in the fridge, it's good to put it in a tray of ice because your refrigerator is actually going to be the warmest part of the process that fish has gone through since it was caught, distributed, when you put it in your fridge. So keeping it on ice until you're ready to cook it is a really good way to just keep it as fresh as possible.
Somebody said, so are you going to make your own pasta? It's like, sorry.
Do you ever make your own pasta?
I do. I make ravioli, but
For linguine, this Prince does a pretty good job.
yeah. It's like there are certain things life is just too short. So, but yeah, so.
Is there any tricks to cooking pasta or anything? I mean, I know that seems like a silly question, but like stirring it when you put it in the water so they don't stick together.
Yep, that's a very good clue. I tend to make, undercook it just a little bit if I'm gonna put it in sauce so that it'll absorb some of the sauce right into the pasta.
Do you ever add a drop of oil?
No, I don't. So, I mean, that's one of those, so there are a couple of things that, yeah, oil's one of those things that,
Yeah.
does it stick together? I don't know.
I
I've not
wouldn't-
had pasta stick together, really, if I stir it. But I don't know. I mean,
I
that's
thought
one of
the
those-
oil was to like help make sure it like didn't boil over. I don't know if that's true or not, but I did for a little while and then I heard the same thing that was like, meh.
Salt.
I did salt this water, yeah. So this water is
Did you say salty as the ocean?
Yeah, it should taste like the
Yeah.
ocean.
yeah. But, yeah. And
That reminds me, I feel like I should just add this one thing because I didn't, but don't put your lobsters in ice. When I was talking about putting the fish on ice in the fridge, don't do that to lobsters because when the ice melts, it'll kill the lobster because it's fresh water. So for lobsters, use dry ice or an ice pack, something like that. Yeah. I just felt like I should add that note.
that caveat.
Seaweed can work, yeah, definitely. Seaweed, or keeping them cold or, oh, yum.
Just gonna add that and give it a toss. Well, if you're gonna have clam, sauce with clams, you should have clams, right?
You agree.
So Monique, is there any way that you can make caviar fish not smell? I know fresh fish isn't supposed to smell, but still, it does. So keep it in milk before you cook it? Have you heard anything? It's like, livestock.
No, the only thing I've heard about the trick with milk is that if you freeze your fish in milk, that it makes a good chowder starter and just sort of helps to protect the integrity of the fish, if you will, when you freeze it. Restaurants, the reason fish and lemon is so popular is because that's how restaurants sort of mask whatever smell might be the case. That smell from fish is just bacteria. So again, when you put it in the fridge, that's the warmest part of the process that fish has been in, and the bacteria starts to build up immediately. So keeping it as cold as possible should help prevent that from happening.
With really strong fish, like bluefish, if you soak it in milk before you cook it, it takes some of the gaminess out. So if,
Might be why I heard that.
so, yeah, so you can use milk for that, but I like the gaminess.
How long can you keep finfish cooked? I think that is, I mean, I hate food waste. So potentially, 5 to 7 days. The FDA might have different standards. Of course, it's also depending on how fresh your fish is.
And are you just serving your family, or are you
serving your
other
family or
people?
friends? But new reports show that even expiration dates are sort of guesstimates, and that truly the best way to distinguish whether or not your fish is safe to eat is less about time and more about how does it look and how does it smell. So I would touch it, smell it, give it a taste, and if it's good, by all means, eat it. Seafood is actually the #1 contributor of food waste in this country, and that's probably in part because people don't have the education around fish, and so if it starts to smell a little bit, or if it's in their fridge a little bit longer than they thought as leftovers, they 86 it instead of eating it. But fish is so fun because even with the flounder that we're cooking, if you have leftover fillets or anything like that, you can use the cooked fish to make fish cakes, or apparently you can put them in the arancini balls, and then you can have sort of a second dinner or a second meal with that fish. So, it's, like I said, it's a durable product to use, a lot of protein, it's good for you, and people shouldn't be afraid to experiment with it and eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, not just dinner. I mean, yeah, that's what I think. So.
You think the diggers have a life of ease? You think they come and go just as they please? Out in the air and in the sun, a peck or two and then they're done. Oh, clams, need 'em for chowder. Oh, clams, you eat 'em with fries. Oh, clams, I'll be a digger until the day I see that old clam digger in the mud. Well, I guess that digging just gets in your blood. As long as he has kids to feed, his boots and hoe are all he needs. Oh, clams, need 'em for chowder. Oh, clams, you eat 'em with fries. Oh, clams, I'll be a digger until the day a digger sets his timepiece by the tide, goes down to the shore when flats are wide. He bends his back and pulls his hoe and digs as fast as he can go. Oh, clams, need 'em for chowder. Oh, clams, you eat 'em with fries. Oh, clams, I'll be a digger until the day. In wintertime it's cold, but still we go out on the flats, although it's 10 below. That onshore breeze is awful chill. If digging don't get you, the frostbite will. Now, ho, clams, need 'em for chowder. Ho, clams, eat 'em with fries. Ho, clams, I'll be a digger until the day. In summertime, the digging days are long. You get 2 tides a day if you are strong.
So what I'm gonna do is, burn my hand. So I'm just gonna, instead of straining the pasta, because I don't mind having a little pasta water to thicken up, it's a good,
I didn't do a good job, I'm sorry.
it's okay, it's a little overdone, but that's fine. It's not a problem. Okay, so what I did was I pulled the clams out so that I could mix the pasta in, and then I'm gonna use them to garnish, so I'll throw them over the top when we're done. And,
Yum, smells good.
So, and I mean, you can strain it. Also, we're a little constrained on no sink, so. So we thought I would just do it. I thought I would do it this way, and I was worried that it wasn't going to fit in this pot, but it does.
But when you think you're getting ahead, the stateman says the tide is red. Now, ho, clams, eat 'em for chowder. Ho, clams, you eat 'em with fries. Ho, clams, I'll be a digger until the red tide means that you can't sell your clams. It means you have to scuttle all your plans. Just feed the kids, put off the rent, you have to scrape for every cent. Ho, clams, need 'em for chowder. Ho, clams, you eat 'em with fries. Ho, clams, I'll be a digger until the day. Now that you have listened to my song, when you're in a restaurant or in your home, oh, when you sit and eat those clams, just remember who I am. Ho, clams, eat 'em for chowder. Ho, clams, you eat 'em with fries. Ho, clams, I'll be a digger until the day I die. Ho, clams, need 'em for chowder. Ho, clams, you eat 'em with fries. Ho, clams, I'll be a digger until the day I die.
And then just a little garnish of parsley. This always begs the question of, do you put cheese on it or do you not put cheese on it? Two schools of thought. Some do, some say fish. Oh, never cheese. So I did not do cheese for this.
Those people are wrong.
Sometimes you need a little cheese, but no, right. So I'm gonna move this on a hot pad because
Oh, I got some right here. Where do you want them?
if we put it on the table there and then people can help
Oh,
themselves.
okay. I got to go this way.
That looks so beautiful.
Yeah. And then, let's see.
Yum. It smells so good too.
So this is why those plates have a little rim on them, because you're gonna need. Yeah, and also one other thing with these, there were a couple that didn't open, and so as I was going through, I got rid of those, and there was one that had a broken shell, and so I just discarded that as well. And if you were making probably the clam sauce and the pasta, like for a family of, of 2 or 4 or 6, and you were making a smaller quantity, the sauce and the pasta will cook in about the same amount of time. So you can be doing both at the same time and not have to wait one for the other. So it's a really quick dinner too. Yeah.
When you're in a restaurant or in your home, oh, when you sit and eat those clams, just remember who I am. Oh, clams, eat 'em for chowder. Oh, clams, you eat 'em with fries. Oh, clams, I'll be a digger until the day I die. Oh, clams, need 'em for chowder. Oh, clams, you eat 'em with fries. Oh, clams, I'll be a digger until the day I die.
Is everybody enjoying the clams? They okay? Yeah.
I'm eating
good.
it.
So that's pretty much it. If you have other questions, no. I'm just, if there are other questions or whatever, I hope this was really fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. So thank you. Thanks to Monique. Yay. So all good. Thank you.
I wish I were a fishy in the sea. Oh, I wish I were a fishy in the sea. I would swim around so cute without a bathing suit if I were a fishy in the sea.